Go ahead and be turning to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter 7, and if you need it, the cheat code for the little orange Bibles, but y'all brought your own Bibles. Y'all are the, I guess, the seasoned group. And I swear, I don't know, Rex was, at least when I was here, he was getting to teach like one chapter at a time, and he gave me 3. And I thought I was getting 4, but the dentist is like, no, don't touch 10. Don't touch 10. It's like, well, good, because that's less stuff that I got to deal with. And if you didn't get one of these little handouts, please get one. Does anybody want one, need one? Nah, they're not coming apart very well. Here's a couple. I'm going to circle south. I got to get my steps in today because I'm not doing my 20,000 that I do for work. Okay, there's several go around here. Rex would probably kill me having so many points on this thing, but he's not here. So he might watch this later and be like, Jeremy, what did you do? So I don't know. I struggle with trying to be condensed and everything. I'm doing my best to honor our time this morning. So to get into the flow before we get into actual Deuteronomy 7, we're going to be covering 7, 8, and 9, or at least going through what I think are probably the most important things. I hope you've read it. I hope you will go home and read it because anytime that I teach, there's always homework. I won't be here to test you next week because I'm going to be out in Roaring Springs. So you're going to be on the honor system that you've done your homework and go back through this to absorb it, to apply it. But why is, from what we've been talking about, how long have we been in Deuteronomy? Just since May, June? Okay. So 4 weeks. Why is Deuteronomy important? Why is this message, this last message from Moses, well, I probably just gave it away. Why is this important? Rules, okay. Rules are important. Why are the rules important for what Moses is trying to do? What's his emphasis, do you think? Keep us on the right path, okay. Any other?
He's feeling an urgency because he doesn't get to go with them into the promised land, and he's got to remind them, hey, look, this is all the stuff that you need to remember. Keep in mind, because I can't go with you.
Yeah, imagine that. You're on your deathbed. Say you've got a terminal disease, and you have days, weeks, whatever. There's some things that you might want to share last minute, like, hey, I'm not going to be going on this journey with you. I need to make sure that you stay on the path. I need to make sure that you stay focused because I'm not going to be there to lead you anymore. Because, even with Moses there, we're not going to cover it because we're not going to have time, but chapter 9, they were repeatedly testing God. They were repeatedly, God's like, I'm just going to kill him and start over. And Moses is like, don't, that kind of thing. So that is the people that he is trying to encourage and to remember. So as we get into this, that's why it's important. These are his final words, his final message. All right, so we're going to kind of hit and miss a little bit of this. You're going to have to do your homework and read through all of it. But let's pick up in chapter 7. I want to start in verse 3. I'll read it, and as we go through, we're going to discuss and talk about it. And I'm reading for the New American Standard. I think in the handouts I gave you in NIV, because I know a lot of people use that. And from when I was reading, it's going to be very similar, so it shouldn't throw you too far off. Chapter 7, verse 3, furthermore, you shall not intermarry with them. You shall not give your daughters to their sons, nor shall you take their daughters for your sons. Now, I'm not going to get too in depth with that, but there's some, even though this was written, of course, to the children of Israel for a very specific purpose, I think there's some wisdom here. So I'll leave it at that. Verse 4, this is the reason. For they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. Then the anger of the Lord will be kindled against you, and he will quickly destroy you. So why would they have been destroyed? What would be the purpose? Disobeying God. Leaving to serve other gods. That's Moses' instruction. That's Moses' emphasis here. If you marry the foreign women, because, I saw a meme just yesterday. Samson, the strongest man, and Solomon, the wisest man, were led astray by chasing after women. So we guys, we have a tender heart, and we can we cannot follow the path very easily because well, we want to take care of. Be focused. Stay focused. So don't go to serve other gods. Otherwise, the anger of the Lord will be kindled and he will quickly destroy you. Verse 5. But thus you shall do to them. You shall tear down their altars, smash their sacred pillars, hew down their Asherim poles, and burn their graven images with fire. That's pretty serious. That's like clearing it out. That's wiping it out. That's cleansing it. Any of y'all that have ever had like skin cancer, do you want to just leave some of it? What's going to happen if you leave some of it? It keeps growing, right? It doesn't go away. You got to get rid of it. You got to cleanse it. You got to purify it. Why? Verse 6. For you are a holy people. I need to stop. What does it mean to be holy? What does holy mean? Chosen? Okay, we'll get to that. What does it mean to be holy, though, first? You're set apart. You have a specific purpose. You have a designated function. You are to be holy as God is holy because He's separate. He's apart. For you are holy people to the Lord. The Lord your God has chosen you. What does it mean? Well, I guess what is the significance for you of being chosen? Not of this world, okay. Set apart. I don't know if you all were ever like me. I was not the most gifted athlete. I did well in sports only because I was... Sean, why are you laughing? I can't believe that. He just crushed my whole dreams of being in the NBA. All right. I was not the best athlete, but I did well because I worked hard. I was hard at it. But like as a younger kid, I frequently would be the last one to get picked. It's like, come on, don't. Look, do we have to take Jeremy? Can we give you, being chosen is special because that means you're wanted, you're desired. You have gifts and abilities that God wants. These people were chosen, and I have in your note, and this is extra credit, this is homework, but out to the side there, go look when you have time, 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 1, and 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. We also are chosen. God wanted you. God wants you. You are part of His team, part of His body for a purpose, for a function. So just as the children of Israel were chosen, we are chosen. So back to Deuteronomy 7, verse 6, for you are a holy people to the Lord your God. God has chosen you to be a people for His own possession out of all the peoples of the earth. That's why that's important. All right. Now let's drop down to the second one. He is God. He is faithful. So I have on the notes verse 8 or verse 9. I want to start in verse 8. Because the Lord loved you. So Deuteronomy 7 verse 8. Because the Lord loved you and kept the oath which He swore to His forefathers that brought you out of the mighty hand, redeemed from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh the king, know therefore the Lord your God. I got to pause for a second and emphasize that, to know. Well, I guess I need to ask this question first. How does anyone get to know anyone? Talk to them, okay. Time, conversation, event, mutual things. So like, if you're, say, dating someone, you might go out and do something you both enjoy, and then you're asking questions. Like, hey, what do you like to do? What do you like to eat? And then, over time, like, well, I know she doesn't like spicy food, so I'm not going to take her to the spiciest restaurant in town. Yeah, that'd be bad. That would not be a good interaction. To know someone, knowing what pleases them, what makes them happy, what makes them upset. That's what it means to know. And I challenge you when you're reading through the Old Testament, particularly, notice how often God says, "So they will know that I am God, so that they will know that I am the Lord." God does a lot of things so that we will know Him. That's a big thing that we get here in Deuteronomy is we are to be seeing the heart, the mind of God because we're seeing how He deals with His people. So back to Deuteronomy 7, verse 9. Know therefore the Lord your God. He is God, the faithful God. So Moses, as he is about to exit, he's about to pass on, and the children of Israel are about to go into the promised land. They're not going to have Moses anymore. Hey, He's God. Remember Him. He was faithful. He delivered you out of Egypt. That's, well, like we talked about, I think, it was chapter 6, what the Jews would call the Shema. the Lord, God is one. This is what it is. He is God. He is faithful, who keeps his covenant and his loving kindness to 1,000th generation. Have you ever thought, how long is 1,000 generations? It's a long time. Yeah, you're talking like 20-ish years per generation and 1,000 of those. So we haven't even lived 1,000 generations yet, I don't think, if my math is mathing. God will keep his covenant, but notice, with those who love him and keep his commandments. So we're going to see several times today there are conditional statements, there's consequences, for things, actions actually do have, pros and cons, consequences to them. So he is faithful. He because he loves us, he keeps his covenant for 1,000 generations with those who love him. But, notice verse 10, but, it's a big but, repays those who hate him to their faces to destroy them. He will not delay with whom he hates. He will repay him to his face. That's a big, So if you love him and keep his commandments, he's going to be faithful. But what's the flip side of that? If we don't love him and don't keep his commandments, what's going to happen? There's consequences, I mean, if you decide, hey, that car looks nice, I'm just going to go take it for a joyride, and you go 115 miles an hour on the loop and whatever and wreck it, and it's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. It doesn't necessarily work with the law enforcement. There's consequences. So notice what he says in verse 11. And always, if you see the word therefore, you got to ask yourself, what is it there for? It's because of what happened before. So we, in order to be pleasing to him, we keep his commandments and love him. Otherwise, we pay the penalty. He repays us. Therefore, you shall keep the commandment and the statutes and the judgments which I am commanding you today to do them. So think about it. You brought up a minute ago that these are rules and stuff like that. What are the benefit of rules? What are the benefit of having boundaries? Keep you out of trouble. Like, don't touch the stove because it's hot. Why? Because, I want to see if it's hot. Because it will burn you, you fool. It's going to hurt. You're going to be like, the rest of your life. This is to keep you from those things. Like we joked before, like this was the last weekend everybody was going to celebrate 4th of July with 10 fingers. Somebody somewhere did something stupid, I promise. Because it happens every year. It's like, I didn't hear that last year. Well, it happened. Those are why we have rules. All right. Now the next section, keeping covenant with God, pick up in verse 12. Then it shall come about, because you listen to these judgments and keep and do them, that the Lord your God will keep his covenant and his loving kindness, which he swore to your fathers. Now first, before we get too deep into this, and I'll come back to the thought that I have here, what is the word covenant? Does anybody have anything different than covenant there in verse 12? I think NIV also used the word covenant. When you hear the word covenant, I mean, it's not, I'm covenanting with you. We don't talk about that like today, but you might do what? Make a contract. There you go. That's probably the easiest one. And when I've taught this before in other places, say for example, okay, Ron, you've got a car for sale and you want to, you'll give it to me for $500 a month for 20 months, So if I give you the $500 a month for 20 months, I get to keep the car, you give me the title. But guess what? If I don't pay the $500, I'm coming back. That's my repo, baby. That's what that is. That is a contract. That is a covenant. So there's a conditional on two parts. It's an agreement between two parties where there's conditions that are, okay, if you do this, I will do that. If you do that, I will do this. So that's what we're talking about. So back to verse 12. Because you listen to these judgments and keep them and do them, that the Lord will keep his covenant. So God will keep his covenant if we listen to his judgments and keep them, to do them. Pick up verse 13. He will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your ground, your grain and your new wine and your new oil, and increase the herd of your young and in the land which he swore to your forefathers to give you. So blessing is a good thing, right? I mean, we're talking about, how to bless a nation. We want God's blessing. We keep his commandments so that he takes care of us. He provides for us. He gives us the rain. And I don't know if you've ever given much thought about it, but maybe when we're as a whole, maybe we're misbehaving. God's trying to get our attention. I'm just saying. I don't know if that's what God's doing, but I think he's done that in the past. I think he can do it again. And I want you to think about this too. Now, this is a thought, and so I'm going to give you some extra homework because I know you need plenty to do. We were talking about that with Sean. It's like I got nothing to do in my free time, so I'm giving y'all something to do in your free time, okay? So you don't need this, but I want you to look at Proverbs 8, 34 to 36, 4, 6 through 13. You don't need to look at them now because it's going to be too much, but when you write this down, I didn't have room to put on your outline because I had to really cram to get all that on there. All right, and I don't need those little marks. All right, so I want you to think about this. The blessings that God does isn't always necessarily miraculous. Think about that. So when we went through the Proverbs in January, if you remember some of these things, some of the blessings are keeping you from doing stupid stuff. All right, so think about this for a minute. When all of us started driving, so there's a difference in terms of insurance. If you're a man under 25 and not married, what is your insurance? Yeah, because why is that, guys? We do stupid things. I was hill hopping as a kid. I mean, we were out there 65 miles an hour on a dirt road catching the things, and I almost lost it one time. So I'm lucky to still be here. God had plans. So, I'm glad there's no young people here. But we do stupid things, But if I listen to the wisdom of God, He keeps me from doing stupid stuff, and that blesses me because then I have a longer life because I'm not doing stupid things, So it may not be necessarily miraculous in the way that God blesses us through keeping His commandments. It could be just like, this is wise. Listen to it, And that's hard for us. It's hard for me. So that's the thought I have for you there. I want to point out verse 15. I'm just going to read it and kind of let you guys think about it yourselves. But chapter 7, verse 15. The Lord will remove from you all sickness, and He will not put any of the harmful diseases of Egypt which you have known, but He will lay them on all who hate you. This kind of ties into a thought we're going to have here in a minute of just the way that God works. I can't say that, disease happens because God is doing this or that, trying to get people's attention, etc. But it seems to me that could be part of how God works. I'm just going to leave that out there and let you wrestle with that. All right. So let's jump down to, this is the next one, that seeing how God works. Chapter 7, verse 22. Now, when I read this, I was like, man, I never would have thought of this. And, a lot of times in my thinking, and I'm sure I'm not the only, I can't say I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who kind of thinks, God, I wish you'd done it this way, and this is how you should have done it, and when you should have done it. Anybody else like that? I'm kind of like that. So verse 22, notice what Moses says. The Lord your God will clear away these nations before you little by little. Why not all at once? Why not just get rid of them, just wipe them out? Why do we have to do little by little? He tells us, you will not be able to put an end to them quickly, for the wild beasts would grow too numerous for you. Imagine, you clear out all these people, now what happens to all the animals? We had Donnell posted a video, I don't know if you saw it like on Facebook, but she posted a video of this herd of elk that were coming down the mountain and stuff, and it's like, that's what we're talking about. I mean, if you have like wolves and bears just, out of everywhere, it's not going to be safe anymore. It's not going to be, if there's not enough people that are hunting and killing those things. This is the way that God works. He thinks about things that we don't think about. So we need to trust Him. We need to remember that He is God and He is faithful. So when we think He needs to clear everything out, we think He needs to get everything prepared, maybe with that job or, with school or whatever it is that we're thinking, God's got a plan to make it better for you. He is going to bless you if you trust Him. He is going to take care of you if you follow Him. So consider that we don't always understand, how God works. All right. Now let's go to chapter 8. Going to pick up verses 1 through 6, chapter 8. And I guess before we get too deep into this, of course you can see the headings on the outline. What does it mean to be humbled? Or to be humble? Either way would work for whatever, but what does it mean to be humbled? Okay, someone else's needs before your own. Kinda. Say again? Big, yeah. Well, I always tell people it's easier to humble yourself than to be humbled, because if you got to be humbled, man, that hurts. But it is being in submission to someone else. It is, recognizing that I'm not king, but someone else is king, and I gotta pay homage. I gotta, show my humility. I don't know. It's not like all about beating your chest in me. It's about submitting to someone else. What does it mean to be tested? And I guess along with that, what is the value of being tested? Check to see what you know. Okay. Huh? Okay. And is that just for the person testing you, or is that also for you? I think I encourage you to think about it like that. So, did God know when He sent, Abraham to sacrifice Isaac whether he was going to do it? But did Abraham know? Did Abraham know he was going to get to that point and be willing? I think it was more for Abraham than it was for God. God already knew what He was going to do. It's like I tell people all the time. So, another stupid thing you shouldn't do, and why I'm lucky still to be here. But we would jump from one house to another. First time's kind of scary. But hey, I've already done that before. It's no big deal to do it again. Once you've already done something, it's a lot easier to do, because all right, I'm sorry. I'm just lucky to still be here. Bad example, but I don't know. Yeah, boys, yeah. We're crazy. We're dumb. But anyway, no, any kind of challenge, whether it's, say, lifting weights or whatever, if you've done this weight, then, man, I can do that. Then you can progress to the next one. So part of the testing is for us to know what we can handle, what we can be pushed to and through, but also then to know our ability. And then the last one, what does it mean to be disciplined? There's two different ways to look at it, but what is discipline? Training, okay, that's the second one that most people don't think about. They think about getting swatted, it's like, well, you did something you weren't supposed to do, I'm going to give you a whooping. They think of that as discipline. But discipline is like, say, back to sports, but in before football, and in Kansas, it's not like a religion, like it is down here where they go to school all day long and that's all they do is play football. We had 2 weeks before, games started, we had 2-a-days, and so that was the discipline, running until we're puking on the side of the thing and drinking out of our helmets, crazy stuff. But that was what discipline was, to push us so that when we got to game time, guess what? I got the physical ability now to go out and do what I need to do. Because if you don't train, I'm tired, I'm worn out, requires discipline. So with that in mind, let's read verses 1 through 6. Pick chapter 8, verses 1. All the commandments I'm commanding you today shall be careful to do. Why? That you may live and multiply and go in the land and possess it. So what is the flip side of that I just read? What if I don't go? What if I do not obey the commands and careful to do them? What's going to happen? I'm not going to live. I'm not going to multiply. I'm not going to be able to possess the land. That's the flip side of that. You keep the commandments and careful to do them so that you may live, so that you may be blessed and whatever. So if you want to bless a nation, we got to follow God. We've got to keep His commandments. Drop down to verse 2. You shall remember all the ways in which the Lord your God has led you in the wilderness these 40 years, that He might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep His commandments or not. He humbled you and let you be hungry. Now hold up for a second. He let them be hungry? Now I know this group is not quite some of our normal group, but have you ever been hungry? Like hungry? I have a few times, and it's no bueno, not fun. But there are things that teaches you, right? It's like, oh man, I better get up and do something, man. I gotta do something, or I'm going to die. Not literally, probably. I've never been to that point of hunger, but certainly it's a motivator, right? Even if you're just at the house and man, stomach's growling, it's like I need to get up, I need to cook something. Nobody else's stomach does that. It feels like it's eating me alive. It's like I better hurry, I better get, whatever. There's a motivation, there's a driving force. He humbled you, that is, he lowered them because they thought they were somebody. He let them be hungry. Why? And fed you with manna that you did not know. So yeah, he let them be hungry, but guess what? He took care of them in that hunger. And if you remember the story, how long did the manna last? 1 day. If you collected more than 1 day, what happened to it? Got worms and stuff, man, nasty. It's all right. I'm going to teach you, trust me. How I know I've struggled with this and still do to some degree. I'm thinking about maybe how I'm going to contribute to the Lord and like, man, I got this bill to pay, and it's like, man, I look at my wallet, it's like I got $20. All right, God, I got to have lunch today, so how often we think like that as opposed to trusting him that he's going to take care of the needs that we have. Trust him daily. There's a reason for that. Trust him. He humbled you, let you be hungry, that he may make you, verse 3, that he may make you understand that man does not live by bread alone, but lives by everything that proceeds out of the mouth of the Lord. Does that quote sound familiar? Has anybody ever heard that before? Who said it? Jesus, Matthew chapter 4. So I think I have that on your thing. Also encourage you as a secondary thing to look at, John. Man, I'm just torching that. Oh, hang on. I got to learn how to write on these boards. Jesus talked about the true food of God is to do his will. So I encourage you to incorporate that. Verse 5, thus you are to know, again, to know God in your heart, that the Lord your God was disciplining you just as a man disciplines his son. For those of you who had children, why do you discipline your kids? Yeah, you don't want them to burn. I don't have the money to go to the hospital, and I don't, no. But why do you tell them not to run in the street? So you're not a hood ornament. You live longer. Back to the Proverbs. We discipline our kids because we want better for them. We want them to not make the same mistakes that we made. That's all God is doing. He's molding us, shaping us into who we need to be so that we can be what he needs us to be. Verse 6, therefore. So because of all these things, because of the discipline, because of the humbling, the testing, you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God to walk in his ways and to fear him. All right. Now we need to move along because I'm taking too long here. Drop down to verse 11. So chapter 8, verse 11. Beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments and his ordinances and his statutes I'm commanding you today. So how do we forget the Lord, according to Moses here? By not keeping his commandments. That's how we forget the Lord. I think our country has forgotten the Lord. And we need to pick up. We need to show our example. Verse 13, when your herds and your flocks multiply and your silver and gold multiply, all that you have multiplies. So not many of us are herdsmen and flocksmen at this point, but he's talking about money. He's talking about your prosperity. Compared to the rest of the world, what's our prosperity like? All of us got cars. Even people that do not have a home have phones. Most of them. Other people in the world, like, no, it's different. We are blessed beyond our measure. So when that happens, verse 14, then your heart will become proud and you will forget the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Why when things go well, do we tend to forget God? Huh? You got everything you need, right? What do I need God for? That's why he humbled them in the wilderness, gave them only the food they needed for one day. Because, man, if you give them for a week, man, it's like, I'm good for the week. He wanted to remind them daily.
It's easy for me to think I did it.
Pulled my, and that's the American mindset, that we struggle with. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, self-made. Nobody helped me. I did all this. Huh?
Rugged individualism.
Exactly. We tend to forget. Drop down to verse 16. In the wilderness he fed you manna, which your fathers didn't know, so this is the reason that he fed them wilderness. He might humble you, and then he might test you, and to do good for you in the end. Notice that. God's purpose, God's plan, we might be going through some hard times. Guess what? Those hard times are to humble us, to discipline us, to test us. Why? So that in the end, he can do good things for us, so that he can bless us. He wants to bless his children. Even your stubborn, my mom with me as a stubborn child, she still wanted to do good things for me, even though sometimes I frustrated her to no end. She still loved me. She still cared for me. She still wanted the best for me. That's what God wants. Verse 17, otherwise, you may say in your heart, this is what you were talking about, Leland, my power and my strength and of my own hand made this wealth. If you're an underliner, underline this, verse 18. But you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He that is giving you the power to make wealth. God is the one who gives us the ability to go out and do what we do. I thank God every day. Sometimes I don't appreciate the job that I have sometimes because it wears me out. But I'm grateful all the time that I had the ability. I physically can get out and work. Because I see so many people that aren't physically able and how difficult that is for them. I'm blessed because I can go out and I can work. The end of verse 18, I'll read the rest and we'll move on. That he may confirm his covenant which he swore to your fathers at this day. It shall come about after, if you ever forget the Lord. And this is important, verse 19. If you ever forget the Lord, your God, to go after other gods and to serve them and to worship them, I testify you against you today that you will surely perish. What does it mean to surely? Not surely as in the woman surely. Just like, remember in the Garden of Eden, they say, you will surely die. It's like, oh, you're not going to die. They died. They got cast out of the garden. It's going to happen. If we forget the Lord our God, we follow after other gods, we're going to be caused to perish. Like the nations that the Lord made to perish before you, so you shall perish because you would not listen to the voice of the Lord your God. Now, I can't tell you that that's what's going to happen here in our country, but if it happened before, is it possible to happen again? I think so. I have a whole list of nations that God used to punish other nations and would use another nation to punish them. Go through the whole list of Assyria, Babylon, Medes, Persians, Greeks, Romans. All these great civilizations were far greater even than our 250-year nation. God used, but then would punish them for using them in the way that he did. So my encouragement, I think if we don't get anything else out of all that we've studied, do not forget the Lord your God. But what do we need to do in order to bless a nation? Do we not need to call other people to not forget the Lord? Do we not need to call people to repent, to turn from their ways? Yeah, and you're right, Leland, it starts with me. Because guess what? Evan, I can't ask you to do it if I'm not willing to do it. If I'm not being an example to do it. We got to be the example. It starts here. We got to be salt. We got to be light. And then we got to call others to repent. All right, drop down to chapter 9. One last point, then we'll start wrapping up. Pick up verse 4. Do not say in your heart when the Lord your God has driven them out before you because of my righteousness. Skip down a little bit, but it is because of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is dispossessing them before you. It is not for your righteousness or the uprightness of your heart that you're going to possess the land, but because of the wickedness of these nations that God is driving them out before you. I'm here to tell you today there's consequences for the wickedness of a nation. I've had people tell me, well, God doesn't care what the United States does. I couldn't prove it to you, but I think he does, because you go through the prophets, and I can share that with this group. You read through the prophets, guess what? There's condemnation for nations that aren't Israel. You know, God was, pronouncing judgment on nations that didn't have the law because they were under a different law, but they still had obligations to God because God is in control. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it could because it has. If we want to bless a nation, we gotta change. We gotta not forget God. We've got to humble ourselves. We've got to allow Him to test us. We've got to all these things. Remember that we're chosen. Remember that He is God. Keep His covenant, and humble ourselves. Don't forget Him, and stay on track. Stay on point. As we lead into, now we're going to start shifting gears. I want you to think about why we're here today. The purpose of coming together this day as opposed to any other day to spend time with one another. I'm dipping in just a little bit to chapter 10, Dennis. Just one verse. Yeah, I know it's going to break you. I was told technically I could go to verse 11, but I'm going to pull out verse 5. So look at, verse 10. Oh, okay. Man, I'm gonna be hurting. All right, just verse 5. Look at verse 5 of chapter 10. Man, I lost where I'm at now on my stuff because I printed them all out. Okay, there we go. So after the extent of chapter 9 talks a lot about how God was faithful, even though Israel was constantly irritating God. So the forgiveness, that's important. And so we go through the whole thing of them getting the law. Moses breaks the two stones, the 10 Commandments, and then they get remade. Notice what he does with them in verse 5. He puts the tablets into the ark. This is significant in the sense that, so if you remember from reading or hearing about the Ark of the Covenant, what was on top of the ark? Anybody remember? 2 cherub, battle angels, not cute little babies. Okay, these are angels that will kill 185,000 dudes in one night. Bad dudes. What are they doing on the ark? What are they doing? They're looking down into the ark. What's in the ark that we just read? The covenant. Okay, on top of the ark is a bowl called the mercy seat. Anybody remember what happens to that one time a year? Blood is sprinkled. The high priest goes in, and of course they had to tie a rope to him in case he did something he wasn't supposed to do and could pull him out, because nobody else is going in there. I'm not going in after him, but he sprinkled blood on the mercy seat. What's the significance of that? So you, if I can, I can't draw, but so you got the 10 Commandments, you got the mercy seat, and you got the angels looking down. What does the blood then do if they're looking through at the law? It covers it. The price is paid. You and I are here today because our price has been paid. Because Jesus lived, died, gave His blood so that so He could cover the law. Just like the Passover. Remember when they got in the house and painted the blood on the doorposts? And I thought about this today, particularly important for our group as we think about it. I didn't think about it today, but I thought about it this week preparing for this. So you had to believe that God said what He said in terms of getting in the house and painting the doorposts, right? So that's part of. But if they didn't paint the blood on the doorposts, what was going to happen? Firstborn is going to die, right? So there's an element to this that you have to believe and obey. We've seen that all in this Deuteronomy 7 through 9. There's an aspect of where you have to trust God that He said what He said is true and right, but then there's an aspect of we got to do something. That's the way I see baptism. I don't know if y'all were with me on that. You believe He said and what we do, and well, we got to do something. We got to react. We got to accept. So we're going to sing 2 songs. Sherry, can you cue the first one? And the second one, I'll lead into it before we